Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for the God that you are. We thank you for relationships, and we thank you that you made us to be relational. Lord, as we struggle through life, sometimes relationships become very hard, and that is why we are thankful for people like Pastor Lupondwana who can share their insights and knowledge, which all comes from you with us. Lord, as we do this presentation tonight, I ask that you will bless Pastor Lupondwana in a very special way. I ask that you will bless the technology, and I ask that you will bless the electricity everywhere, that we may continue and finish, and all glory to your name. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Pastor, over to you. So
Good evening, Connie. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Pastor?
I'm okay. I quickly jumped in today because I was not sure if I would not end up shouting from outside after we hit our 100 limit yesterday.
Yes, that's what I was worried about.
Yes. No,
yeah.
I think.
But I think more people join as we go along. So, but that's okay. But thank you, Pastor, and thank you for blessing us again this evening.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me greet everybody who's joining us from different parts of the world. I understand we initially thought this was just for the Northern Conference, and then it spreads, and we've been getting all kinds of comments from people in different parts of the world. May God bless you where you are. Today we're talking about relationship skills in marriage. I hinted at this on Monday when we were talking about the context of marriage, and so we're going to get into it today to see if we can't just tackle a few things. We're not going to talk about every relationship because we do not have time. I've picked about 7. There are more. I've picked about 7, and then we're going to run with those. Firstly, on Sunday, it was important that we use the same text on Sunday, and I indicated when we read the text on Sunday that we are going to come back to it when we are dealing with relationship skills. It's in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Now, it has likewise here in verse 7. In verse 1, it also has likewise because it's talking to wives, because earlier on in chapter 2, Peter was talking about how people should they should submit to their servants, and he gives good reasons why people should submit to their servants. And then he says, when he starts chapter 3, likewise, wives should submit to their husbands. And then he gets to verse 7, he says, husbands, likewise, dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. And the thing that I constantly want to extract from this text, as much as there are a number of other things we can extract, first is the sense of understanding, the sense of living together with understanding. Because when we don't live together with understanding, we tend to want to impose things. We tend to be difficult and very rigid. And the understanding, it's interesting in that as much as the Bible talks about the husband being head of the wife as Christ is head of the church, which we covered yesterday, Peter goes on further to say giving honor to the wife. He talks about how the wife should be given honor as the weaker vessel. Now he's defining how the honor should come. We'll discuss it some other time, but not tonight. And constantly remember that we are heirs together of the grace of life. So you're not dealing with somebody who you will not stand in front of God, the throne of God with. This is someone you're going to spend eternity with. This is someone who has been saved by Christ, just as I have been saved by Christ as a husband. This is somebody who's a joint heir, not just with me, we're joint heirs with Jesus as well. And also Peter adds, and this other incentive, that your prayers may not be hindered. So one of the incentives of living together with understanding, we do not want our prayers to be hindered. Now, when we talk relationship skills, we'll just touch briefly on the skill part. The skill on Oxford Languages, if you go online, just Google skill, meaning, it'll tell that skill is the ability to do something well. The ability to do something well. And so when we talk about relationship skills, we're talking about those things that are needed in the relationship, those skills that you need in the relationship, those abilities, your ability to do things that enhance the relationship and your ability to do them well. So that's what we're looking for, so that our marriages can be enhanced. The first of the skills I'm going to highlight is the ability to acknowledge your spouse's feelings. You would think that this comes naturally. No, it does not come naturally. The number of times people feel unappreciated, they feel unheard, they feel ignored, they feel sidelined in their own marriages, which tells you that people aren't able to admit the other person's feelings. Now, what you find most of the time is that when we are in our relationship with our spouses, most of the time when something comes up, when there's an issue that comes up and we want to deal with it, the problem that has cropped up, and now here we are trying to find a way to resolve it. Many a times that we have a default position of trying to defend ourselves. We have a default position of wanting to explain ourselves, or sometimes even trying to downplay what's going on with the spouse or what the spouse is saying. So the concept of acknowledging the spouse's feelings, though that concept can be tricky because it's difficult for us to understand. Now, if the literature on acknowledging your spouse's feelings refers to it as validating emotions, which is essentially, if you look at the different publications that are there, you can break it down and boil it down to politely and respectfully. And then I chose the politely and respectfully part because I know that even if you do these things, these other things of finding out what your spouse's feelings are and communicating that, you accept that they exist. If it does not happen politely, it doesn't feel like invalidating. It sometimes feel like another aspect of the fight. So when you validate somebody's emotions, you are politely and respectfully finding out what your spouse's feelings are. Politely and respectfully finding out what your spouse's feelings are and communicating that you accept that they exist. Now, when I remember when we were newlywed with Avia, newlyweds, and if she didn't look okay, I would ask an amateur question, and the question would be, "Are you okay?" Of course, I can see she's not okay. I mean, I'm not quite sure why I would venture. Why I would venture to think that possibly she would not be okay. Did not know. Sorry, someone is saying here I must go to presenter mode. Thank you very much for the assistance. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so someone would wonder. Now, you would wonder, why would I ask? Why would I ask somebody if she's okay? Why would I ask if she's okay? I mean, I can tell she's not okay. I'm looking at her. I can see she's not okay. And here she is telling me, and here I am asking, are you okay? Well, over time, I've learned that you don't ask, are you okay? It's much better to ask, what's the problem? Or are you not feeling okay? And you because the default response you end up getting is no. Oh, are you okay? Yeah. But the yeah suggests you're gonna be in trouble if you run with the yeah. It's best if you run with something else. It's best if you run with something different. And so that's basically what would happen when you're starting out. You would think that this is it. If you simply ask, what's wrong? Are you okay? If you ask are you okay? You would think that that's a sensible question. But the reality is that, no, that's not really the question you're looking at. Why is it not the question you're looking at? Because you don't always get the value. You don't always get the benefit of the person actually telling you that this is the problem. And so because of that, it's much better to try and find out what the feelings are. There are some negative feelings. Assume that because you can see from the person's face that there are, and then you politely and respectfully try to find out what the feelings are, and you communicate that you accept that the feelings exist. Now, when you're communicating that you accept that the feelings exist, you're not necessarily accepting that feelings are valid or whatever, or not valid, but that you agree with them. We'll get into that a lot more later. But the key thing here is you accept. Now you sit and ask questions that you want to find out what's wrong, what happened. And then the person opens up. Of course, initially, there's this mystery of, is something wrong? No, there's nothing wrong. Okay, you just need to persist until you get to the correct answer. And ladies, please, because some people do it more than others. If someone asks you what's wrong, just say, is there something wrong? Yes, there's something wrong, and just say that there's something wrong. But after you find out that something is the case, your spouse is upset about something, frustrated about something, you just need to validate those feelings. How? By accepting that they exist. I see that you're upset. I see that you are angry. Oh, now I understand. That would make you angry. Now, when you do that, the person feels that their feelings have been validated. But there's also the possibility of invalidating the emotions. Now, invalidating the emotions is different in the sense that in this case, you're simply dismissing the fact that the person feels in a particular way, or you're belittling them, or you simply ignore them, or you are ridiculing their feelings as though they are not reasonable, or the feelings are irrational, stupid, and immature, or should not be expressed. And when you do this, the other person feels belittled. They feel like over time they stop talking. Over time, the other person stops sharing with you. Now, it's possible that, now this has happened both ways. I've dealt with couples where men do it, and even the research shows that sometimes men do it and sometimes women do it. This business of invalidating the other person's emotion, but you just belittle, what do you have no reason to be upset about that. Or you just ignore them. Or you just mock the feelings, or you make fun of the fact that the person is upset or frustrated or saddened by something. Or you just downright insult you, like, that is very stupid, and you go to town trying to prove that it does not make sense. It's not logical. The person should not be upset because of this. That invalidates the person's emotions. Now, there are 5 things I want to talk about here. The first is in the privacy of your own mind. If you're going to try and politely and respectfully find out, what your spouse's feelings are, start in the privacy of your mind. In the privacy of your mind, you might think that their feelings are unreasonable. You might think that your spouse's feelings are irrational or stupid. Now, by stupid, we mean they lack intelligence or common sense. You might think that these feelings are immature right now. But please, even if you think that in the privacy of your mind, now is not the time to communicate that, either with your words or body language. Now, when we talk about body language, it ranges, man. It could be rolling of an eye. You're like, oh Lord, not this again. It could be that exacerbated sigh. It could be those things that really communicate that nah. So that's not the time. So if it's in your mind, keep it in your mind. It might be best to probably amend those thoughts, but keep it in the mind and don't make sure it doesn't leak. And when you say that we're acknowledging your spouse's feelings, we're not saying that you are agreeing with the logic of your spouse's feelings or their conclusion. We're not. It's not to say that you are agreeing with how they arrived at this conclusion. All we're saying is you're simply acknowledging that the feeling exists. But it's neither a call for you to apologize or to accept that you are going to be bullied every time someone is upset. You then have to yield to whatever it is that they want. No, that's not what it means. What it is that you are simply acknowledging that the feelings exist. That's what it is, basically. That you are simply saying, I see that you're upset. I see that you're frustrated. I see that you are nervous, so that the person knows that you realize how they feel. And that's it. That's it. And if you're going to avoid anything, you're avoiding that tone of voice that sounds like you're irritated. Or if you say, no, I understand, you're frustrated, you don't say it in a way that sounds dismissive, that sounds as if you're just saying it for the sake of saying it. And even when you're going to say it, you don't smuggle in there an insult or the blaming of the other person. You try and make sure that at least you come across as polite, as caring as you possibly can. And the goal of acknowledging your spouse's feelings is to make them feel at least that they've been heard, and at most that they've been understood. That's the goal here. That's how you want to make them feel. Why do you want to make them feel that way? Because when people feel like they are not heard in their own marriage, they tend to be open to be excited by somebody else who pays attention. You don't want to mess up. You don't want the person to feel unappreciated in their own marriage, feel unheard in their own marriage. Why? Because that way it's very difficult to be fulfilled in a marriage where you don't feel like you are heard. So you just acknowledge the spouse's feeling. It does not always mean you even have the solution for whatever your spouse is raising. At this point, you are merely acknowledging your spouse's feelings. Now, the second thing that we have to acknowledge when it comes to these relationship skills is to make sure that you make your spouse feel heard and understood. Remember, firstly, I said acknowledge the feelings. Now, it's make your spouse feel heard and understood. And we're going to do this, and I'm going to talk about three things here. First, the value of us paying attention and letting them know that we're paying attention and trying to understand their reasoning. These are the three things we're going to be dealing with. Now, let's start with paying attention. One of the most interesting things in life that we don't always understand and always accept is that attention is very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. I mean, it is a very expensive gift. Why do I say it's a very expensive gift? Because it's not just the time and the effort that you're giving to the other person. It's everything else you could be paying attention to that you are not paying attention to. I mean, it's the opportunity cost. You could be doing everything else. You could be doing other things that may even be more interesting, that may even be more fun, but you have chosen to take this time that you will never get back again. You've chosen to take your energy and your effort to pay attention to this person. And so when you choose to give somebody your attention, you are giving them an extremely expensive gift. Now, you are investing something you will never be able to get back. So if you're going to do with that, you might as well do it very well. Number one, pay attention. You look at them. You look at them, and if you can't because you're driving or so, you just keep on looking at them once in a while, pay attention. And when you are paying attention, because it's such an expensive gift, you better let them know that you're paying attention. They need to know that you are paying attention. They can't assume. I mean, you can't spend something that is irreplaceable as your time and give someone something as expensive as your attention, and they don't even know it. They need to know that you are now spending big stuff on them, which is attention. So you don't waste the attention. They need to know that you're paying attention. And remember, sometimes when you're paying attention, you're making up for all the times you were not paying attention. So you pay attention. So how do you do this? Now, the experts say you nod, and I've seen this is true. You nod. Nodding helps. And in addition to the nodding, there's simple thing like It says you're following. Once in a while, repeat something they said. And she walked into my office and slammed the door. Now, when you repeat the slam the door, it reinforces the fact that I'm still spending huge stuff here. When I'm talking about attention, slam the door. And you know what? If you want to upgrade from repeating something they did, rephrase it. And they slam the door and you rephrase it. And you say, and that must, someone walks into the door and you said, did the walls shake? So the way they slammed the door into the, onto the walls must have been shaking. Yes, if you can summarize it. After they've talking for a while, whoa. So this person came in upset because blah, 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 blah was happening. And they came into your office. You thought the person was upset with you. They slammed the door, sat down, started crying. Yeah, wow. Now, as you do that, you are trying to emphasize that, hey, I'm paying attention. Because we can't afford to spend big things like attention. And people don't even know that we're spending attention. So we will not. We will say, wow, serious? No, come on. Repeat what they say. Man, we're going to rephrase and summarize what they say. They have got to know and feel that we hear them. Why? In reality of life, we are not always able to do that. So the times when you're going to pay attention, man, just do a thorough job of paying attention. Let's do a proper job of paying attention. So that's the first one. And in addition to that, first and second, you pay attention, you let them know that they're paying attention. And lastly, you try and understand their reasoning. Now, understanding the other person's reasoning can be tricky. And it's a skill. because it requires you to set aside, as they are talking, set aside your objections to what they're saying, set aside your responses to what they're saying. Just try to follow their logic, their reasoning. Just try to follow what they are saying and move with them. You may not always agree with it. And if it's difficult to understand, you try. You try. Now, the reason I say try to understand, sometimes the reasoning is difficult to understand because it's jumping, it's all over the place. But if you at the very least can repeat what they said and say, just try, just let the other person see that you've put the effort to try and understand their reasoning, how they arrived at this conclusion. Now it makes them feel heard, such that when someone feels heard and understood, they can take you disagreeing with them better than if they think you do not understand them. If they think you do not understand them, it is difficult to take your disagreeing. Sometimes it's as if you did not hear it. This is why sometimes when you talk to somebody and you hear what they've said, and they keep on repeating the same thing, you're like, but I heard you. It's because you have not communicated to them that you heard them, that you understood them, that to them, it doesn't feel like you heard. And you're like, but I hear you. I hear, like, no, you don't hear, you're not listening to me. And when someone says you're not listening to me and you're not hearing what I'm saying, now the task here is you resist the temptation of fight. What do you mean? I've been listening here for 30 minutes. You're saying the same thing over and over again. That's not the response, because now the response is to try and make sure that the other person feels heard. Now, if you want to make the person feel like they've been heard, feel like that they are understood, you pay attention, you focus. Now, sometimes we are on the phone when these things are happening, and it contributes to the person thinking that you're not paying attention, or you're writing something else, or you're reading a book, and it doesn't feel like you're paying attention. So you pay attention to the person, you look at them, and you listen to them as they are talking. You follow up, you nod, you ask, question, and then what happened? That's a powerful question. And then what happened? Really? Serious? Yeah. Okay. All of that says you're listening, says that by the time you get to repeat some of these phrases or rephrase them or whatever, they have this sense that you are listening. And then this is the killer punch. When you are able to summarize what they said and say it back to them, they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Oh, now you're ready to disagree. Now you're ready to say, I hear what you're saying, but. When you say at that point, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, but. The but, okay, no, not the but. Okay, whatever comes after the but, yes, when you say the but is taken seriously, it might mean something else. Whatever you say after the but, it's easy for the other person to listen, because now they know that you understand them. They know that you've heard them. Now they want to find out what is it that you're going to say after they have said what they wanted to say. Now, it's a skill. It takes years to perfect. I struggled with the skill myself, and I used to take pride in the fact that I thought I was quite good at this and realized not so much. So the second skill I would like to emphasize today is that one of trying to make sure that we help our spouses to feel heard and understood. First one, acknowledge your spouse's feelings. Second skill you need is the ability to make your spouse feel heard and understood. And the third skill we honestly need to get. We need to know how to fight. We need to know how to fight. Some people don't know how to fight. I mean, there's a lot of amateur fighting going on. Of course, there's some professional fighting going on, and I'm hoping that we're gonna go into the professional fighting, and we're gonna talk about these four things: the causes of some of the fights, the expectations that we have when we walk into fights, the punches that we throw in the fight, and then we'll talk about how the fight gets to be ended, because these things are important. Now, when I was new to marriage, man, I fought like an amateur. What do I mean by that? When I fought like there was no tomorrow. Honestly, I fought like an amateur. And over time, you get to improve with the fighting. Now, let's start first initially with before the fight starts. Amateurs generally hope never to fight. in the marriage. They hope never to fight. They hope to have a marriage where there will be no fights. Well, that's amateur. The professional fighters know that a fight can pop up when you least expect it. True. You could be driving, minding your own business, listening to music in the car, boom, fight happens. You could be at a supermarket, pushing a trolley in the aisles, picking up things that everybody in the house likes, boom, a fight occurs. You could be sitting in church, listening to a preacher, somebody whispers something, boom, a fight happens. It could happen when you least expect. You could be hugging, you could be kissing, having a wonderful time that is romantic, full of promise. You know exactly where this thing is headed. Boom, a fight happens. So pros know that a fight can happen anytime, while of course amateurs are trying to avoid it. So I would like to urge you today, if you're one of those people who are new to marriage and you're trying to avoid, hoping that you guys are never going to fight, of course you're going to fight. You live together, two different people, two different brains. You are living together, you are going to fight. Number two, when it comes to the causes of the fight, you know, the amateurs, and I remember from my time when I was new, and I've counseled a lot of couples, and if you read the literature on the fights that couples have, you get to realize that the amateurs always expect not to be the one who caused the fight. They expect when they fight to prove and show and demonstrate that they are not the ones who are at fault. They are not the ones who are the cause of this disagreement. Now, these are the "it's not my fault" people. These are the "it's not my fault" people. And in the fight, you know, they try to demonstrate that it's not their fault. And even if they're partially, even if it's partially the fault, they're partially to blame. They try to find a way to show that some of this blame belongs elsewhere. Someone else, something else, the weather, everything. But it can never be completely or largely their fault. And the fight here is, and sometimes you hear them saying, so you're saying it's my fault. So you're saying it's my fault. It's as if it's a crime or a sin for something to be a fault. Sometimes it's your fault. Now, professionals know that anyone can be the cause of a fight. They know that I can cause a fight. You can cause a fight. Sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's your fault. And they don't always dwell. The pros don't dwell on whose fault it is. They're just dealing with the fact that this thing has happened. It has upset me or it has upset you. Let's deal with the feelings now of what has happened. And so when it comes to the cause of the fight, the amateurs try to always blame somebody else. Now, if you can pick yourself up here and realize that it's a big thing for you to know whose fault it is, to try and make sure that it's not completely my fault. And you've heard yourself say, but it's not completely my fault. All right, fine. The fault part doesn't really help. Fault part doesn't really help. It does not really advance anything. Because in reality, we are two sinners, two imperfect people. We are bound to sometimes cause fights. We are bound to sometimes be at fault. We are bound to sometimes be 100% responsible for a particular incident. That's bound to happen. So you can't obsess over the fault. If someone is upset, you've done something to upset the other person. Doesn't mean you're evil, doesn't make you a bad person. It simply means you've messed up this time. Don't worry, there's enough opportunities in life for everybody to mess up. So you own up to the mess up, but you understand, you can't obsess on that. You focus on the fact that this is what has happened now, and you deal with it. Now, this is fighting. This is fighting. Now, when it comes to expectations, amateurs expect that the fight is going to change the other person. That's the expectation. That this fight is going to change the other person. The other person will not be the same after this fight. Because I've told them what I don't like, because I'm angry and they can see that this thing has upset me, they are going to change. No. Fights hardly change anybody. Now, the professionals know this. They know that fights are not about changing the other person. They know that the professional fighters know. After a while, you pick it up in the marriage. How do you move from amateur to professional? You learn from your mistakes. You learn from stuff that did not work in the past. Now, how do you know that it's not going to work? Because you've seen it over time. So what do? You're professional in fighting. You know that this fight is about the present emotions. The person is upset now, because you did not pick them up now. So you're not going to change the fact that the person has already picked you up late. Now, if your spouse has a horrible time with punctuality. I mean, your spouse simply cannot be punctual, and they were supposed to pick you up and they rock up 15 minutes late, and you've been standing there and you are cold and you were cold and you got upset because you called them an hour and a half before you knocked off work to tell them to come and pick you up and not to be late, and they promised not to be late, and you called them again 30 minutes later and told them, are you on the way? I'm on the way. Do not be late. You know I don't like it when you're late. And then the person still rocks up 15 minutes late. Now the fight is about the fact that the person rocked up late after all the efforts you've done. Yes. But if you've been with this person and you know they're horrible with time, this one fight is not going to change the fact that they are messed up with time. This fight is about how you feel right now and the fact that right now they made you wait after all of that effort. That's what this fight is about. And that's what the professionals understand. They know that this fight is not going to change the other person. We're dealing with the anger and the frustration of this specific incident. That's it. That's when it comes to expectation. We do not, if you're a professional, you generally do not expect the fight to change the other person. If you still think that your level of anger and the strong words you use and how upset you are and the monologue you are bound to do, because when we're upset, we just burst into these monologues. I mean, we just go to town. Even those people who say, I can't give a speech without writing it down, they always take down notes. When they're upset, they go to town without the notes. No PowerPoint, no notes, no research. They go to town about how they feel. They go to town about what you have done and everything like that. Before you go into that monologue, the amateurs expect that the monologue is going to change the spouse. The professionals know that I'm going into this monologue because I'm angry, I'm upset with this person, I'm frustrated with this person, but it's not going to change them. This fight is about my feelings right now. If you're an amateur, may I appeal to you to try something else, maybe? Secondly, when it comes to these expectations, an additional expectation, amateurs, when they are fighting, they expect to win. They expect to win. Now, the win comes in different ways. Sometimes the win is an apology. They want an apology. And the apology, sometimes they want it to be accompanied by a commitment, never to do it again. You are in a fight. You expect an apology. And this apology must be accompanied by a commitment, never to do it again. Hey. Now, sometimes when we're upset with people, it's not that they were wrong. It's just that what they did upset us. And the fact that it upset us doesn't mean it's wrong. And it's very possible sometimes that the thing that they did that upset us is of such a nature that in future, they'll probably do it again because it was probably the right thing to do. It's just that we were upset. Maybe because it was happening for the first time, or it was taking us by surprise, but it's not that they're never going to do it again. So you can't expect that when you're having this fight, you're going to win and the win is going to be an apology. Sometimes you get an apology. Sometimes you get an apology. A person comes 15 minutes late. You're there, you launch into your whole tirade, and the person gives you an opportunity because it's reasonable. When the person is angry, it is reasonable for you to let them go. Why? Because if you quickly come up with a reasonable explanation, there's this thing that's left in them that's just, sometimes they just need to let it go. Now you've just nipped it in the bud. So you go and and the person says, yes, I understand you're upset. But the children's school called, or the nanny called, or they called me at swimming lessons, something happened to so-and-so who's our child. And then immediately the other person realizes, whoa, if that was the case, then it's a good thing you were late. It's a good thing you came later. Of course, the new fight now is, why didn't you call? Battery dead. You know, my charger is messed up. I haven't bought a new one. Okay, so these things are kind of reasonable. They're understandable. Now, the reason I'm highlighting these things is because it's not always the case that when something has upset you, that when you get the full explanation, you will then say, apologize and promise never to do it again. It's just that in the future, you would say, oh, okay, fine. You understand that if this were to happen again in future, this is what the other person should do. Sometimes in a fight, you'll get an apology, but do not always expect to get an apology. And sometimes these amateurs, they don't just want an apology, to win with an apology. If they're unable to get an apology, they settle for demonstrating that the spouse is bad. And I've been there. If you cannot get the apology. If you cannot win the fight in the sense that the other person concedes, I'm right, you're wrong, then you try and show that this thing you did because you don't care. You did it because you're selfish. Once you start saying it's because you're selfish, now you're hitting the actual person, the person. Why? Because you're trying to win. The fights are not about, now the professionals know that the fights are not about winning. The fights about expressing the feelings about this one incident. And after the feelings have been expressed, there's no longer need for the fight. The purpose of the fight is over. You've expressed your feelings. This thing that was in here that was boiling, it is out. Now the fight is over. It can be over. You don't have to win. You don't have the other person. You don't need the other person to say, you are right, I'm wrong, because it does not always work out that way in reality. So please, if you're big on winning in a fight, it's not going to take you anywhere. It's not going to take you anywhere, especially if you try to win all the time. And sometimes, and this is a very unfair expectations that we have when we are new to fighting and we don't know how to fight. Because sometimes you could be with a person for many years and you still don't know how to fight. Sometimes one of our expectations is that when I apologize for what I said in the fight. So sometimes we say hurtful things when we are fighting. And when we are amateurs to the fight, to this whole fighting business, we expect that my apology to you for the things I said when we were fighting is going to erase the things I said. The professionals know that you cannot unsay what you say in a fight. Generally in life, if you've said it, you can't unsay it. Even if you apologize, the apology is about the feeling of the person, but you've said it. And the unfortunate part of life is that the things we say today create a context for what's going to be said tomorrow. Because tomorrow, if you slip into something similar, then the person says, yeah, the other time you said this and apologize, you're saying something similar now. So it means that this thing is true. It says that the apology is to manage my feelings. And it's difficult to unsay things. Some of the things we say, because sometimes we say things that are sensitive, things that we were told in confidence. We use those in a fight. Ooh. And even after you've said sorry, can't change the fact that you said it. Now the person is going to be hesitant to tell you things in future because they know this thing can be used against me. Again, if you open up to somebody, you tell them something that is a weakness of yours. You open up to somebody and you tell them something that you struggle with, and they slap you with that thing in the fight. The apology does not erase it. What the apology does is to indicate that you never intended to, okay, you did intend to hurt the person at the time, but now you probably regret doing it. That's what the apology is communicating now. But it leaves the spouse with the fear of opening up to you again because the things they say might be used against them in another fight. And this is one of the things that contribute to people ending up being silent in their marriages and not talking to one another because they're afraid that the things they're going to say are going to be used against them. Now, these are some of the expectations we have, that this apology is going to erase everything, and the apologies don't erase. So you have to be careful about the things you say because you cannot unsay them. When it comes to punches that we throw in the fight, when you are new to fighting, you don't know how to fight, you generally mix your feelings about today's incident with your feelings about other things that have happened. You connect it with other fights, other things you did not mention before, that you are selfish. How can you do this? How can you let me sit here and wait? And people were passing me by, asking me if I need a lift, and you are not. And I said, no, someone is coming to pick me up. And I'm standing there like the fool because my wife decided to delay, or my husband decided to delay, and I'm standing there like this idiot, and you're not calling. Now the person is going on. So far, the person is expressing their feelings about the event. You know, it's like that other time. Whoa! Once you say it's like that other time, now you're connecting, you're bringing other things down. Of course, in your mind, you're trying to prove a point that the person just does not care. You bring your points of other things. And this other time you did this and I decided to let it slide. Really? If you decided to let it slide, why you bring it up now? But then when you bring all of those things up and you exaggerate about, now when you say exaggeration, you never think about me first. You always think about yourself first. Now, those words never, always, they are serious exaggerations. Serious exaggerations. But that's what we do. And you make it sound like this one incident is the relationship deal breaker. It's like if I'm going to be with somebody who doesn't care about me, who doesn't care about my welfare, about my safety. What's the point of being in this marriage? There is no marriage here. All of that because of this one incident. And sometimes when we are mixing everything, these are punches we are throwing, punches that we are throwing. And sometimes in the punches, you say, I can tell you don't care about me because even in your family, you don't care about each other. Da, 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 da. All of those punches we are saying because we are angry now. Unfortunately, you end up saying things that cause serious damage to the relationship. You are saying things you can't unsay. You are making the other person, instead of focusing on what has happened, to try and defend themselves. And when we are new to marriage, we're serious amateurs. We do a lot of dodgy stuff, and this is one of the dodgy things. Now, the professionals, they know, man, let's stick to this thing. They stick to the feelings right now, frustration. They don't bring the other time. They don't bring in the other things. They decided to let slide. They leave your family out of the whole thing. They leave the other incidents when you did things that you fought about, that you resolved then. They stick to this one incident. For your anger and your frustration, your feelings to be valid, they do not need citations. They do not need many examples. You don't need numbers. The fact that one thing has made you angry, that one thing is enough. It does not need many other things to join in to give weight to this one incident. This incident enough. In and of itself, it is worthy of anger. Yes, you can be angry, you can be frustrated, and you can express those emotions. You can. So the pros know this, and they stick to this one instance. Now, the amateurs, one of the things they do when they throw punches, you would swear that they don't care if this marriage ends. Maybe at that point they feel that way, then 5 minutes later they don't. But you'd swear that there's no marriage tomorrow. And as a result, they're dealing with a bad person. And they usually attack the person. If you are late, instead of attacking the lateness, this is what happens when we're new to fighting. Instead of attacking the lateness of the person, we attack the person who was late, because it seems as if the lateness flows from a selfish, uncaring person. So once you say you are late because you don't care, you're late because you are selfish, you are now attacking the person. It's no longer about the lateness. The lateness is neutral. It's a natural outflow of not caring. It's as if the lateness is not the issue. The issue is that you're married to a bad person. Now, when that happens, that person feels attacked for being a particular kind of person. And once you attack the person, the things we say attacking the person, those things we can't unsay. Professionals know this. If you've been fighting for a while and you've learned from your mistakes, professional fighters know that good people can mess up sometimes. Good people, they mess up sometimes. And so whenever you are here, you are late, you didn't do what you were asked to do, as much as it was important to me, they know that the issue is your lateness. The issue is not doing what I asked you to do. It is not because you yourself are a bad person. It's just that what you did this time was bad. It hurt me, it upset me, it disadvantaged me, and I'm angry because of that. They stick to the issue about this, and they don't make it about you. At the end of the fight, you know that what I did was wrong. You don't walk away from the fight feeling this person sees that I'm a bad person, and a feeling that you need to attack yourself. Because once people attack us for being bad, the reaction could easily be to try and prove some of the other person's mess ups and to demonstrate that they're just as bad, if not worse. Then there's no improvement from them, no improvement from them. So sometimes when we are new to the fight, as we throw everything in the fight, like there's no tomorrow, we put everything in the fight. Everything in the fight. This is the interesting thing. As we put everything in the fight, we leave nothing unsaid. We cause damage that could be untold. Professional fighting knows I still need to build a life with you tomorrow. We have a life to build together. And so because I still want to build a great life with this person after the fight, I can't make it about the person. I can't say things that I can't fix later on. I just have to be very careful with my fighting. Why? Because I still want to have a wonderful fight with this person. Now, when we are still new to the fight, you fight, when you're done, it seems as if the fight is over. Nah, it's not over. How? Because there are some snide comments that reference that incident. Snide comments. You're rubbing it up. Why ever mess up? If I was late, you rub it in my face from time to time. Sometimes in front of a third person, sometimes in public. You know, just throw it as a comment. Throw it as a comment. It hurts. It hurts. You throw it as a comment. You may throw it as a comment, just snide comments on the side. And it causes a lot of damage. If the person was messed up, you had the fight, and you've resolved it, keep it there. It doesn't need to be followed up by other snide comments. Now, unless you make it an inside joke between the two of you later on, of course. But the snide comments can be really damaging. Now, the professionals know that the fight stays in the ring. They know the fight, you don't take it out of the ring, it causes more damage. You keep it. And sometimes when we are new to fighting, sometimes those fights can get physical. You put a lot of pushing and shoving and slapping and punching and kicking and damaging of property. Now that's amateur fighting. Now the professionals know you don't get physical. You do not get physical. Why? Because you do not want to end up in prison being somebody's girlfriend. You do not get physical. And trust me, you may end up in prison, whether you're a husband or a wife and being somebody's spouse over there, you know, common law spouse. You do not want that. So you don't get physical. Number one. Number two, it's just bad. It's just bad. Once you become physical in a relationship, you've set up a precedent that's going to be difficult to solve. So the physical escalation of a fight, not only is it a crime, it's bad for the relationship. So they stick to the words, and you know, they stick to the words, and they stick to words that will hopefully not cause permanent damage. So these are the punches that people throw in the fights while they're fighting. Now, in terms of ending the fight, amateurs can fight for 30 minutes. They can fight for 30 minutes and not talk to each other for 3 days, waiting for the other person to come. First of all, for the other person to see that they were wrong, admit that they were wrong, apologize, explain in detail why they are apologizing, and then the fight will end. So sometimes you'll find that the fight itself was 30 minutes, but the aftermath of the fight, the silent treatment, the Cold War, the tension lasted for 3 days. That's when you're new to fighting. And at that point, the important thing is what is their fault. Yes, I may have been wrong, but you should not have spoken to me like that. You know, yes, I was wrong. You should not have approached me like that. That's amateur fighting. You're new to fighting, or you don't know how to fight. Professional fighters know that not talking to one another never helps. It doesn't. They know that. If you had a 30-minute fight, 30-minute fight. When the fight is over, you've expressed your emotions. Now it's time to make peace. And they know that whoever initiates peace, it's not about the person, the one who initiates peace is the one who was wrong. No. Initiating peace is about ending the fight. It's about ending the fight, ending hostilities, and building a relationship again. Because the time you spend not talking to one another, you will never get that time back. It is never coming back. It's gone for good. And you don't want to start this pattern of not talking to one another for a day, because it's going to escalate to 3 days, then escalate to a week, and then you end up having those bouts where, you know, last time he or she spoke to me was last month. It's not right. It's not right. So we can't just, we can't fight for 30 minutes and not talk to one another. Why? Because that causes a lot of damage. It leaves this tension in the marriage that makes it unpleasant to come home, that makes you unpleasant to live with. At that point, it doesn't matter whose fault it was. You are just unpleasant to live with. Full stop. And sometimes when we are new to marriage, to fighting in our marriages, we struggle to move on, especially if we did not win. We struggle, we still feel bad, and we need time to mope. Sometimes the time to mope can be extended. And so you find that it's difficult for us to move on. Sometimes we're constantly trying to find ways to show that the other one was partially responsible, or it was not completely their fault, or something like that. Professionals know that when the fight is over, it's over. You don't go back to the fight. You don't go back to the fight. You try and, you know, clean it up and make sure that there are good relations between the two of you. Why? There will be plenty of things to fight about in the future. That one belonged to Wednesday. Wednesday, that was Wednesday's fight. Thursday might have its own fight. Hopefully not. Thursday might have its own fight. So we're not bringing Wednesday's fight into Thursday. Why? It's just bad stewardship. You can't be managing life like that. That's not how we want to manage life. So that's basically how the fighting happens. Now, why is it important to know how to fight? When we don't know how to fight, we can sometimes think that the problems we have in our marriages is because we are fighting. You can think that the reason why we are unhappy in the marriage is because we are fighting. And as a result, you hear a person saying, we fight a lot. Now, the number of times you fight is not the issue. It's how you fight. Because once you are pros at fighting, you can have 4 fights in one day, and by the time the day ends, you're getting along like nothing. Why? Because you kept that fight to that particular issue. They have lasted 5 minutes, quick skirmish, boom, done, move on, and you quickly repair that, and you move on, and boom, another quick one, and then you move on. And that happens generally when people live together, because you clash. You've got different minds, different perspectives, different feelings, and different things, that the experiences you bring to every particular encounter you have together. So the issue that you're fighting not is not an issue. The issue is that when you don't know how to fight, each fight drains the marriage. Each fight chips away from the marriage until you get to a point where you look back and you feel it's not worth it. We're always fighting. And when you say always fighting, the issue is not the disagreement. The issue is not even just that the fight occurs. It's the things that are hurtful that are said during the fight. Hopefully there's nothing physical, because it's physical, you might need to bring in the police. But it's the hurtful things that are said in the fight. It's the tensions after the fight. It's the unpleasantness that follows. It's the sense that you have after you've had this fight that, Lord, why? Oh, why? Because it's so draining and it's so taxing, and you feel so attacked and defeated after the fight, and it leaves you with a hostile environment within the family. And so when someone says we fight a lot, that's the issue. Don't know how to fight. And as a result, the fights are a problem. It's important you know how to fight. Yes, it's important for us to know how to acknowledge our spouse's feelings, number one. Number two, it's important for us to know how to make our spouses feel heard and understood. But also, it is important for us to know how to fight. Fourth, relationship skill that I think would be very helpful to us is we need to know how to speak in ways that make sense to the other person. Speak in ways that make sense to the other person. Now, you may be thinking, what do I mean, speak in ways that make sense to the other person? I'll talk about 3 things. Don't be difficult. You must ask, and we're going to talk about coaching. When I say speak in ways that make sense to the other person, sometimes the way we speak doesn't really make sense. The way we communicate doesn't make sense to the other person. What do I mean by that? First, let's talk about not being difficult. As people, we don't read minds. Do not expect your spouse to read your mind and simply know what you want, when you want it, and how you want it. The fact that I love you does not mean I know what you want and how you want it. The fact that I love you does not mean I will automatically feel somewhere deep inside me that you must want this and give you that. That's not how life works. And in fact, Chapman writes a book about 5 love languages. He talks about the different love languages. One of the love languages is gifts. Some people like to be given gifts, and for them, when they get gifts, they feel loved. Other people, it's quality time. You spend time with them, they feel loved. Other people, it's physical touch. You touch them and they feel loved, and that could even go to the issue of sexual intimacy. They're big on that. So if you do that with them, they feel loved. For some people, it's words of affirmation. If you compliment them, you say things that are encouraging, that are nice about them, then they feel loved. For the other people, it's acts of service. If you do something for them, then they feel loved. Now, generally, this is what he says, that, and it's true, I've seen it, that as people, we generally love the other person with the love language, with our own love language. In other words, if I'm a gifts person, I will buy you gifts and expect you to feel loved. And whereas you could be a quality time person, and you feel like I'm not interested in the book. Yes, I appreciate the gift, but I want to spend time with you, not the gift. So the default position we usually have is to love you with our own love languages. So please don't expect us to read minds. Wives don't read minds, and husbands don't read minds. And please, the people usually expect the mind reading more than the others or the wives. Please don't expect us to read the minds. We're not into the other stuff. That stuff is very complex. Even magicians can't get it right. So if you want something, say it. Tell the poor man that you want a fancy birthday party and you want the following friends to be invited. Tell him, this is what I want. If you want a surprise birthday party, tell him to surprise you. If he doesn't know how to surprise you, well, in the beginning, help him plan your surprise birthday party. And on the day of the party, for goodness sake, be surprised. And you will do this until the spouse gets into the rhythm of planning your surprise birthday parties, if they get into the rhythm. For some of us, we never get into the rhythm. You just have to say, well, the one I have just doesn't do surprise birthday parties. If you want someone to hold your hand, tell them, hold my hand like this, hug me like this. Don't be difficult. Do not expect your spouse to read minds. Secondly, hints do not always work. So don't be difficult here and start giving people hints and expect that the hints are going to work. For example, you walk into the car, you close the door. Wow, that person is waiting for transport to go into such and such a place. I don't think that they will get there in time because I think their transport might be running late. Okay, stop the car, you go. Next thing, there is a fight in the car. How can you be selfish? How can you be so inconsiderate? I told you about this person's situation. You're like, so what? What happened? Why couldn't you give the person a lift? Really? You could have simply asked, can we give so-and-so a lift because so-and-so is going to such and such a place and I don't think they'll get there in time if they continue waiting for the transport. Do not give a hint that if I said this, I thought that you would think. If I said this, I thought you'd figure it out. There is no thinking of figuring out. Because when we don't always get it right as wives or husbands, then we are in trouble for not getting it right. So please do not rely on hints because hints don't always work. So if you are giving hints, you are being difficult. You are being difficult. Please do not be difficult. The hints do not always work. Now, secondly, I said ask. Ask for what you want. Ask it. Ask it by name. Do not wait to be offered. Do you know why? Because you might wait until Jesus comes. You might genuinely wait until the Lord Jesus comes. So if you want to come with me to the shop and I'm going to the shop to buy something, don't sit there and wait for me to ask you to come along. And then later on be upset that I did not ask you to come with me to the shop. Simply say, I'd like to come with you to the shop. That's it. No complaint. And don't come up with difficult, strange things with, I don't want to come if you don't want me to come. If you want to come, just say you want to come and let's just go to the shop. You know, we just don't need to add drama to the whole story of going to the shop. So ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. We don't want tense and unnecessary tension and silence in this whole relationship. So if you want it, ask for it. Ask for it. Now, if you want a compliment, just plain out ask for it. You don't have to stand there turning around hoping that the person's going to notice. It's better for you to say, I think I look good in this dress. What do you think? You know what you're going to get 9 out of 10? Yes, I think you look good too. Wow, look great too. Because that's what you wanted. You don't stand there and say, what do you think? At that point, I'm going to think maybe there's something wrong. And I ask, what do you mean? Oh, never mind. Oh, the whole thing has gone down the drain now because I've messed up the response. If you want something, ask for it. If it's a compliment you want, ask for it. And let me tell you this. It helps when you say, I like it when you do this. I like it when you say this. Why? Because that tells the other person they're in the right track and they can follow it in that track. And let me tell you something interesting too. If you want it again, make a big deal about it. Why? Because if you made a big deal about it and it registers to the other person that, yes, That was great. If you like the way she complimented your sermon, then make a big deal about the fact that, yeah, always good when the wife says something nice about the sermon. Yeah, make a big deal about that compliment. Why? Because you're going to get it again. If you just shrug it off and act like it's not a big deal, you may not get it again. You may be sitting in the car, driving from church, and nothing comes your way because you acted like it's no big deal when it was a big deal. So if it's a big deal for you, please make a big deal about it so that you can get it again. And the last thing we're going to talk about is coaching. Now, if you're going to speak in ways that make sense to the other person, you must be willing to coach. Say this, say it like that. Do this, don't do it, not like this, right there. Aha, there you go. I like that. I like that even better. Coaching. Now, if you are in the marriage and your spouse is coaching you, do not take offense at being coached. Do not take offense. Why should you not take offense? The top athletes in the world, the #1 athletes in their fields, are being coached even though they're on top of their game. If those guys can be coached and they don't take offense, and those private guys who play golf or tennis go looking for coaches to coach them so they can get better at what they're doing, we can't take offense. If your spouse decides to coach you on what makes them happy, on what they like, then accept it as something that is good for you. Coaching is going to make you better. Coaching is also important because as we get older, as we grow older, our tastes and preferences change. And it's good if the other person is able to coach you and you end up finding out, oh, so this is no longer, so now it's all right. So coaching works. This is why it is very important for us that when we are communicating with our spouses, that we please do so in ways that make sense to the spouse. Because if we do not communicate with the spouse in a way that makes sense to the spouse, we're not going to get anywhere. Trust me, we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to end up having these fights that we should not be having, whereas we could have easily avoided them simply by communicating with our spouses in ways that make sense to them. All right. The fifth relationship skill is the ability to have fun with our spouses. Now, there is this parents first, couples later trap that we sometimes fall into when we get married. This belief that the relationship can take the back burner. And because we're parents now, we have to take care of the children. And remember, sometimes just getting married, just being married itself as a daily routine that can be very stressful, that can be very traumatic. Why? Because it's daily. There are things that have to be done. There'll always be laundry. Every week there's laundry. Every day people have to eat. Every day people have to go somewhere. And so that can be good. So it's this idea that the parents come first and the couple comes later is not always great. I remember when my daughter Sofana and I was in preschool, she came home one day and we were busy having a tiff with my wife in the kitchen. One of those small fights that you do have in the kitchen. I'm not even sure what it was about, but I have a picture in my mind of where we were. And she asked, "Are you guys getting a divorce?" I'm thinking, divorce? Where did that come from? It turned out one of the kids in her class in preschool, her parents, she told the class that her parents were divorced. So she lives with her mom, and they divorced because they used to fight a lot. So she lives with her mom and goes to her dad for weekends. And so Sofana and I thought that because we were fighting, we were also going to get a divorce. So you get to realize that one of the best things you can do for your kids is to actually be into each other, be into each other, have fun together, love one another, treat each other well, because it gives them a sense of security. And secondly, life is too long to spend miserable, serious. And once you're miserable, time is slow, time is slow, time is slow. If you don't know that time can be slow when you're miserable, think of the time you were hungry and check how slow time was. Think of the time you were cold and how slow time was. Think of a time when you were scared and how slow time was. Time can be slow when you're miserable. So it just doesn't help. You need to be able to invest in having fun together as a couple. And also remember, you can't always be doing this parents first, couples later thing. Why? Because the kids are going to leave you. And when the kids leave you, they're going to leave you alone. When they leave you alone, you need to be able to live together as a couple. Need to be able to live together and enjoy your life together as a couple. So you cannot always decide, no, children first. You You are a huge priority in this relationship, a humongous priority in this relationship, because without you, the relationship does not exist. Secondly, we must learn to invest in the couple, the two of you. Find out what does your spouse like. Find out what do you like. Because sometimes we don't know what we like. We know what everybody else likes. And I must admit, sometimes the ladies, that is your problem. You don't know what you like, but you know what your kids like, you know what your husbands like, you know what your friends like, you know what your sisters like, your brothers like, your parents like, you know what everybody else likes, what excites everybody else. But when you ask, what do you like? It's like, and you come up with things that are not that big a deal to you. Why? Because the effort has been on everybody else. It's important for you to know, what do I like? What do I like? What do you like? And then you invest time in the couple. Even if you take walks together, sit next to another, hold hands, invest time and effort in one another, and put money into the couple stuff. Put money now, not marketing. They haven't paid me for this. For 16 Rand, you can get an ice cream in a cone, plain, Steers. I know that one because that's the one we use. Or if you want to go extravagant and fight with the health ministries guys, you can get a chocolate dip in a cup for 19 Rand 90. Really, 40 Rand will take you far. Really, it will. Meaning that you don't have to put a lot of money. There are instances where you're going to put a lot of money for exotic things. I mean, we've gone to exotic locations with my wife. You put money into those. But if you're going to put money into those things, you must be able to plan ahead. You save money that way, and you get able to do things you would have never done had you not planned ahead. Learn to plan ahead. And the beauty of planning ahead is this. Beauty of planning ahead, this is it. It excites the person long before the event happens. I remember when we were planning a retreat in Sunset in Mauritius, because we had set the date a year before, man, that stuff excited my wife and I for about a year before it happened. Before it happens, as you make plans, talk about it, Google a few things, check this and that, that stuff excites you long before it happens. The planning ahead and sharing of the plans, that stuff will keep you on a different level, on a different cloud together. So if you're going to go out in December, might as well discuss it in January and be on that high for the year as you plan for it, plan a route, save money here and there. And whenever the topic comes up of something nice and exciting that's coming up, it excites the two of you. And don't always feel the urge to include the kids. No, for them, when they see you getting along, even though they may say, can we also come? And when you say, no, you're not going to come because we're not married to you. And the kids have this sense that, wow, marriage can be nice. And for them, they feel that, the parents love each other, and they have this genuine thing that they come from a loving family. And so when you have this ability to have fun together, it's a skill, because there are many people who have the time, who have the money, who have the youth, who have the ability, you have everything they would need to be happy. What they don't have is the skill, the ability to have fun together. And this skill requires that you think as a couple, you think about having fun, you make plans, you prioritize your relationship, you set aside time, you set aside money, you plan ahead for things you want to do, and you try new things. There are things we've tried with Avia. Some of them we're not going to discuss on the platform here. We've tried those things that we've discovered. We're not doing that again. Why? Never. And sometimes as we're getting older too, we're realizing, well, okay, fine, that not anymore. So that's it. You plan, you try new things together, and when you have these adventures and these memories together, it's wonderful. I remember one time we had gone to sit in some government building. We spent the entire day standing in line there with Avia. And you know what we did? We sat there, we took out our phones, and we went through pictures and video clips of places we've been to, and that day just flew by, because it brought those memories, bring back the same fun and excitement we had when we experienced them. So it's great for the marriage. Invest in it. Now, doing stuff together does not always mean you're going to have to synchronize every aspect of your life. No, some things you're going to do independently and individually, but please invest in the couple. Please invest in the couple. It will take you far, 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 far. Please invest in yourself as a couple, because if you don't invest in yourself as a couple, who else is going to invest in you as a couple? So please, invest in the couple. Now, the next relationship skill we're going to talk about is help each other progress in life. Now, to have progress in life, and here we're going to talk about how progress is personal and how we should be able to motivate each other and celebrate each other's successes. Now, when we talk progress in life, we must remember that what you view as progress is very broad. It includes career, education, spirituality, personal growth. All of that is progress, because when we meet with our spouses, we usually at a particular level, there's still room to grow in these various areas in our lives. And when we become parents, we want to improve in that area as well. But secondly, the important thing is that progress is personal. It's personal in the sense that each one have their own concept of progress. And I have my concept of progress and how far I want to go in life. You have yours. Please don't impose yours on me, and I'll try not to impose my focus on progress. But to be able to help me to get where I want to get in life, that's a skill that you need in marriage, because you don't want your spouse to later on look back at the wife and feel this marriage has been a complete flop. I'm exactly where I was when we met or when we started out. So that's the thing. So you try not to force your progress on your spouse. Please don't do it. And sometimes the progress is determined by where I started out in life. It's true. I may have started out earlier, Pastor Nechifulane tells a story. I was speaking to him last Sabbath. And then he makes an interesting comment. He says, some people don't understand that when they say you are a zero, some of us smile. He says, because when we were still doing arithmetic, there was something called a number line, and there were integers there, those numbers. And then he says, right in the middle, there was a zero. And there was a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10. And then on this side of the zero, it was -1 all the way to -10. And then he says, very interesting, he says, some of us started with -10. So when you say we are a zero, man, that's tremendous progress. And I never thought of looking at it that way, but yes. So some people, their sense of progress, how far they would like to go, sometimes doesn't go far by your standards, because you may have started at 0, now you're at 5, and you feel really come along. So please don't impose your concept of progress on your spouse. And sometimes when your spouse doesn't want to go as far as you would want them to go, it's not that they don't have ambition. It's just that they may have arrived and they are content with what's happening in their lives, but help them to get to where they would like to get. And then hopefully you get to be helped to get where you want to get. And that may not be at the same level at all. And this is the part that after you understand this is where your spouse wants to go, this is where you want to go, this part of the skill becomes very important. Otherwise it brings resentment. And that part of the skill is to be able to motivate your spouse to achieve their goals and to advance. Now, the resentment can easily creep in when my spouse seems to be exceeding me in terms of my educational levels. They have the passion to go further and further. Sometimes the resentment creeps in when my spouse's career seems to be picking up and mine is not. You must be able to motivate. You must be able to your spouse to move in even further. They're going for a job interview, encourage them, motivate them. And when they attain these successes, then you celebrate those milestones together. When there is a glitch, you encourage your spouse not to give up. That's a skill. That is a skill in marriage. And when you utilize it, your spouse is able to feel that the marriage itself is a resource. Marriage itself is a resource. So it is very important that when we are dealing with our spouses, we really try to make sure that the marriages that we are in are a blessing, because our spouses are able to see progress in their lives because of the marriage. And the last skill we're going to be dealing with, the relationship skill we're dealing with, is try to be a learning relationship. Now, this concept comes from learning organizations. The concept that an organization can learn from what has happened before. The organization can learn from things that have happened, whether good or bad. That's where the concept comes from, about trying to be a learning relationship. Now, when it comes to relationships, we have to learn from other people. But when we say learn from other people, we mean other people have succeeded at certain things. And because they've succeeded at certain things, we can learn from those successes, and we can copy and decide, okay, fine, we can try that. Of course, it may not happen completely the way it happened for them, but we can learn from other people's successes. We can also learn from other people's mistakes. Just because we have not made the mistakes does not mean we cannot look at other people's mistakes and decide, I'm not doing that. We don't always have to learn from our own mistakes. So yes, we learn from other people. We learn from their successes. We learn the good things we take. A marriage is like a bird's nest. When birds build their nests, they pick up, from twigs here, and they go and pick up soft feathers from other birds to make up their own nest. That's what we do in life. That's what we do in life. You can learn from other people's successes, and we also learn from their mistakes. Now, it doesn't end there. We also need to learn from our own successes. This has worked, we stick with it, we improve it. This has not worked, we're not going to try it again. We learn from our mistakes. It's a terrible waste of life not to learn from your mistakes. You're just wasting life. You just have an experience. Something has happened. You messed up royally. You messed up in spectacular fashion. You might as well learn from the mess up so that in future, you don't do it again. So it's important that we don't only learn from other people, we learn from ourselves. And we must be open to new things. Open to new things, open to new stuff, new experiences, because those things will teach you new things. But do not be a slave to peer pressure. Just because other people are going to go bungee jumping doesn't mean you have to go to bungee jumping. I'm not a big fan of bungee jumping. I'm afraid of the rope snapping. People say it hardly ever happens. I'm still afraid of bungee jumping. My wife wants to do bungee jumping. I'm praying that the Lord talks to her, but it's a story for another day. But beyond that, you need to have this regular review. You need to have this regular review. Why do I say you need to have this regular review? One of the things that we have to accept is that we change over time. Because we change over time, what was fun in the past may not be fun today. What was great in the past may not be great today. What I was good at in the past, I may not be as good at it today. What I had the passion to do for a long time, I may not have the passion to do for a long time today. I used to love driving long distances, manual. Told my wife, I'm into manual. I like the changing. That's the fun in the driving. Now, not so much. If we can break it up, then all better. So it's good to have regular reviews of your marriage, how things are happening. Are they still the way we think they were? And so as we get back to our text in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, it's important that we live with each other with understanding. Because when we do, then we are able to utilize these relationship skills to enhance our marriage. Because what we want more than anything is to be happy in our marriages, because that gives us a reason to stay, it gives us a reason to smile. And yes, life is wonderful when you are happy with your spouse, and life is long and miserable when you're not. May God bless us, all of us, with joy and happiness in our marriages. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Were you blessed? I was. As you were speaking, there's something I read the other day. It says, when I married Mr. Right, I didn't know his name was always. So
I like that one. I've never heard it before.
I can be sometimes Mrs. Right, and Jen can sometimes be Mr. Right. So yeah, the dynamics in marriage can be very, very interesting. So I want to know if there are questions you'd like Pastor Lepondwana to answer, something you need clarity on. And as you were speaking, I also thought, I don't know if it's just me, but I think it's most ladies. We have a file 13 that men are unaware of, and we can go and draw from the archives, File 13 is my thing. I have it. Everything is stored. Our memories are so good, but sometimes not for the right things, Pastor.
Sometimes that file 13, when it's pulled out, because men don't have it, they're shocked by what? I don't remember. And you guys have examples for everything. And let's keep it there. Let's keep it there. We're waiting for Jesus to come, to come again and save us from this sinful world.
Yeah. But
it doesn't. I haven't seen any questions on this side.
No, Pastor. It's just comments. Even on Facebook. No. So I think, again, you are so good. It's been so clear. We are with you all the way, and we're going to have wonderful marriages. Let's just see. Oh, wait. Someone said, how do you deal with ill feelings about your spouse's choice of friends? Oh, goodness.
Look, that's a dangerous one. dangerous, and you have to tread softly. This is why I say you tread softly. You may look at your spouse's friends and have justifiable reason why you are concerned. But I'm not sure you want to actually prescribe who your spouse's friends should be, because we don't always like it when our spouses prescribe friends for us. So tomorrow you might give him license to prescribe what friends you should have, and he might actually have very weak reasons, but because you've started the whole trend of prescribing friends, that could be a problem. It's better if you raise some of the issues that they are concerned about with the friendship, that this is my fear. This is my fear of the influence of this and that. Raise that, let them know that this is what you're concerned with. It's not that the problem is the person, is what the person comes with. That's your issue. So that tomorrow, it's not a question of, if you can tell me not to have that friend, I can tell you not to have that friend. Otherwise, there's no fairness here. You keep your friends, I keep my friends. So raise it like that. And do not attack him or her. I'm assuming that's a her who asked the question. Do not attack the spouse for choosing friends like this, or even sticking with friends like these. No, they may have their own reasons. We have all kinds of loyalties to different people, but raise your concern about the issue. Leave the person out of it because you still want to be married to the person. The issue, that's your issue, that's your problem. Deal with that particular issue.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. I think that's clear. And then someone on the chat says, what if the past event keeps cropping up?
It crops up in two different ways, and we'll cover part of this tomorrow when we talk about dealing with playing the hand you are dealt. There are instances where the past is going to constantly cropping up. An example with this: if you are dealing with somebody who has no sense of time, no sense of punctuality whatsoever, well, that's going to constantly coming up. It's going to constantly come up. That past event will constantly come up. Now that's one instance. But if that thing happened and you're not letting it go, and the spouse is not letting it go, and that's a dangerous thing. You may need to sit down with the spouse and talk about it, because it's going to chip away from the marriage. If they've refused to listen, talk to the Lord, because that spouse of yours is playing a very dangerous game of making that event keep cropping up. Now, there are things that may crop up over and over again because of the nature of the issue. For example, if you were unfaithful, rebuilding trust takes years, not days, not weeks, not 7 apologies, not months. It takes years, which means that from time to time, that thing may keep on cropping up. You cannot, as the person who was unfaithful, expect that we talked about it, it's there, it stayed in the past, because now it's not just about the affair, it's about the trust that was lost. And apologies do not bring back trust. They don't. Apologies don't. Apologies facilitate a process where you can earn the trust back. Remember, when you met, the person did not know you. When they decided to give you a chance, they gave you the benefit of the doubt, you got the trust. Now that you've been unfaithful, you've lost the trust. Now you're going to have to earn the trust, and that takes years. And if it keeps on coming back, if that event keeps on coming back and it's unfaithfulness, and it comes back in the process of rebuilding trust, it comes with the territory. Now I'm hoping that somebody is helping you as a couple with the rebuilding of the trust. I'm hoping somebody's helping with the rebuilding. If someone is not helping you to rebuild the trust, then that event keeping on to cropping up again over and over again is going to destroy the marriage. But if someone is helping you to rebuild the trust, then there's light at the end of the tunnel. You'll be able to move on from it and have a different type of relationship than the one you had before you got married. But yes, in instances like those, it may keep on coming up from time to time.
And Pastor, the one thing I also maybe just want to say is that, as Adventists, we're sometimes so scared to go for counseling. And sometimes you need a counselor to point things out that you're not aware of, both of you. Just we shouldn't be closed to going for counseling when the need arises. It could save the relationship, and it could make it so much happier and meaningful going forward, because we grow from kind of the mistakes we make. And as we get older, we realize that I'm not the person that I think I am. you know, your spouse could perceive you so differently to how you perceive yourself, and that sometimes helps.
You could easily give yourself an 8 out of 10, you know, in this whole marriage story, and your spouse is on a generous day giving you a 6, and you're shocked. A 6, really? Me, 6? I thought I was such a great spouse. So yeah, sometimes a therapist can show you why the 6 or 5.5 is closer to the truth than the 8 you had in your mind.
So thank you once again, Pastor. Thank you, everyone. Remember, tomorrow evening is the last evening.
Yes, it is.
So bring your friends. You don't only want to have a happy marriage alone, right? You also want your friends to have a happy marriage, because when you're friends with people and the other people are unhappy, you're not going to see them, because the wife is going to say, Anthony, come, I'm getting you now. You're going nowhere. You're sitting here in this miserable house. Me and you both. So don't do that. Bring everyone along so we can all have better relationships. Thank you so much, Pastor. Can you please close for us in prayer?
Let's pray.
Wait, quickly. How do we motivate our spouse to, example, advance on a course that they have started and they are having a difficult time in it?
They're having a difficult time in what? In finishing what they started.
How do we motivate our spouse to, example, advance on a course they have started and they are having a difficult time in it? I'm assuming this is for studies.
It's possible. Now, 2 things. There are people who have it in them to finish what they started. That's just it. They just, and my wife is like that. Of course, it can be a blessing, and sometimes, well, she just has it in her. If she starts it, she will see it to finish. She will see it to finish, and she gets tremendous excitement from seeing it to finish. Sometimes there are people who have that. They just have that. It's part of who they are. And there are people who are quite content with not finishing stuff. They feel, that's 2. 3, there are times when the person wants to finish what they started, but they're just struggling. To encourage them is to just keep on saying positive things, remind them that they can succeed, and that they can overcome these challenges. It's just those positive words that come from you, you know, the sense of confidence you have in them and their ability to complete. Now, please do not do that in a nagging form. By nagging form, I mean, you don't always come back and manage and supervise the spouse and saying, what did you do today? How far did you get today? And that's not encouraging, that's supervising. And then you'll find that the reaction there can be very negative because the person doesn't want that kind of reaction. So it's just encouraging, and allow them to resolve the matter in their own time, in their own way. But as long as they know that you have this confidence in them that, you know, they could finish it, but also be open to the possibility that your spouse is not as traumatized by not finishing stuff as you are. And if you are the person who gets traumatized by not finishing stuff, and your spouse is not that kind of person, accept them for who they are and just live with the person. They did not have to complete this thing for you to marry them, so it should not make them less of a spouse now.
Okay, Pastor, this is the last one. How do you both agree to make peace with that since you don't agree with type of people one person is close to? You need to spend some December holidays apart. So
that would be a dangerous one, because December holidays is, in our context, the longest holidays we have, and that's usually considered family time. And we don't really want to yield that time to somebody else. It's best if you compromise. Now, the idea of compromise means you don't always get everything you want. Sometimes you don't get what you want at all. You just yield to the other person. Sometimes you get a little bit of what you wanted. So it might be important to look at what's important. Is your dislike of these other people greater than your desire to spend time together as a family, you know? And if not, then you might be willing to swallow this other, you know, presence of these other people just so that you can have this, or you can negotiate some form of split arrangement you know, that instead of spending the entire December with these other people, I suspect these other people may either be in-laws, you know, and you feel if you don't get along with your in-laws and your spouse wants to go home for the whole time, whoa, then problem. So you may agree to say that this part of the holiday, let's spend it together, and this part we can spend it with those people that you like, something like that. But find some form of compromise. But the idea of saying you spend your December holiday apart, you're on your own and with your people, I'll spend my December holiday on my own with my people. I would not encourage that, because I'm not sure it's going to bring any joy to your relationship as husband and wife.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, everyone. Please, we're not going to entertain anymore if you don't mind, because it's already 8:05. Yes. And we would love people to come back tomorrow again, please. So, Pastor, thank you. Can you please close for us in prayer?
Let's pray. Our loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for your love. We thank you for your care. We thank you for the time we spent this evening. We thank you for your word that calls on us to live with one another with understanding. I pray that some of the relationship skills we shared tonight may help us in our marriages so that we could be happy together as husband and wife, and that happiness may spill over to other family members that we have and those around us. Father, continue to bless our families with joy and happiness. For those who are struggling with this peace and happiness in their homes, I pray that the Holy Spirit may step in and bring about this peace and this happiness in those homes. Help us resolve issues that seem to be these knots that cannot be untied. And Father, as we live these lives with our spouses and as we find joy in one another in our marriages, may we do so in ways that bring glory and honor to you, so that when Jesus comes again, we may meet him in the clouds to be with him forever in the kingdom. This we pray in Jesus' name.